I am joined by Emily Collins. She is a mindset and business coach, mom of four, and the host of the High Vibe CEO Mama podcast. Hey, Emily, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Oh, so great to chat with you. So, we were just chatting before we started about, having a lot of children. So, I'm a mom of one. She's three. So, I'm like really in the thick of it, if you may. um, and it feels like a lot. So, whenever I hear people have like three, four, five kids, I'm like, oh my goodness, how do you do it? So, how do you like take care of all of these humans?
That's so funny because it's probably one of the number one questions I get asked. And what I tell people is one kid is hard. Two kids is
Mm.
hard, right? It's just different hard. And definitely with each kid, my idea of what's possible and what I can hold has been expanded. And also, when you have a lot of kids, your kids are forced to be independent. So, I'm
Mm.
not over here filling their glass of water like they go get their own water. So it just forces them to have a level of independence that sometimes one and two kids don't have.
Yeah, that's somebody had said to me once that having one kid in some ways can be harder because they rely on you for everything,
Yes.
including their entertainment. Whereas when you have multiple kids, I mean, they don't always play well together, but ostensibly they can entertain one another, right?
It's so true. Actually, three of my siblings have one kid, and every time they come over, they say the exact same thing. They say, your house is wild and chaotic, but it's so fun, and there's always a playmate. So we don't
Mm.
rely on iPads and stuff like that just because we don't have to entertain them every single second.
Which is nice because, yeah, I do have to rely on iPad, like, when I wanna make dinner or something.
Yeah,
I do try as much as possible to get my daughter involved, but sometimes she doesn't want to, and that's
it's
fine.
hard.
But at a certain point, you have to cook, you have to make
Yeah.
dinner, you gotta
I
get it
must
done.
feed you. I don't have a choice.
Exactly, but that's why I love watching my, like, nieces and nephews because I'm like, "They entertain my child, like, please give them to me."
Yeah. I know sometimes it's easier when a friend comes over because they just change the dynamic and really make
Yep.
it easier, like you said.
So how are you now I almost hate asking this question because I feel like men don't get asked this question, but
Yeah.
how do you sort of balance motherhood with being a business owner? Because, I myself am in it as well as a mom and business owner, and I do find it challenging just because I am sort of the default parent. I am married, I have a husband, obviously he contributes, but just naturally the way things go, I'm sort of the default parent, and I do find it difficult to balance everything. What
You
about
know
you?
what? Yeah, it's a good question and one that I get a lot. And I've been thinking about it a lot because there's so much to that, right? So I think my number one thing that I would say is get clear on your values. And people think, you might think different things with values. For me, that's travel, that's family time. It's my business. It's time for myself with my friends playing pickleball. I'm very clear on what's important to me. And that allows me to hold boundaries really well. We're
Mm.
not taught to hold boundaries. In fact, we're taught quite the opposite, right? Most adults don't know how to hold boundaries. So it's like if you can get clear on your values and then every decision goes through that filter, then those boundaries, the yes, the no, is much easier to hold.
Absolutely. Were you a business owner before you became a mom? Which one came first?
Before I became a mom, when I met my
Okay.
husband almost 13 years ago, he was very entrepreneurial at the time, has been since he was 20. And he really opened my eyes to that. And we've done many businesses, invested in real estate, startups, you name it. So, but I didn't have my own business until I had four kids.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we had always done joint things and tag teamed, but it was really over a year ago now that I decided, you know what? Because I have four kids and I'm crazy, let me also just have a business that's 100% my own. And that was a big shift in both our family dynamic and just life in general.
Did that come with any guilt on your part? Like, did you feel that mom guilt?
You know what? I didn't. And I'll tell you why. Because
Good.
after I had had four kids, when I had one or two kids, I really tried to control everything. I tried to be everything to everyone. And I lost myself in it. And so it was actually having more kids, I realized this is a non negotiable. Taking care of myself is 100% the single most important thing I can do. And I embody that. But it took having that many kids to make me realize oh no, I'm not going to show up how I want to show up unless I'm taking care of me. And part of that was I'm not just a mom. I'm a
Mm.
mom, I'm a friend, I'm a CEO, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a pickleball player. And so when I stepped into that identity of CEO, I really didn't have guilt because I realized that the two were fueling each other. So what I do in my business makes me a better mom. And what I do at home really makes me a better business owner and a better leader. So no, I didn't have the guilt. And I realized that guilt comes up a lot, and it's a big one.
Yeah, I find I don't have the guilt for prioritizing my business as a
Yeah.
mother, because it's part of how I keep a roof over our heads and how I put food on our table, right? But I do experience a lot of mom guilt when I try to take time for myself for leisure activities, shall we say. I've been trying to make time to see friends or to go shopping by myself or, just little things that are for me. And that I do have a lot of guilt about because I mean, my 3-year-old will be like, "Mommy, can I come? Like, why are you leaving? I miss you, mommy." And then obviously the whole time I'm gone, I'm thinking, "Oh, wow, I'm the worst mom ever because I'd rather do this than spend time with my child." That's not true. I know logically that's not true,
Yeah.
but it's so hard not
But
to
it's
think
very
that way.
yeah, of course. I'd say the biggest thing that I've learned, and I'm really leaning into the past year, is presence. And that might
Mm,
not sound like great advice, but actually, if you think about it, when you're in your business, you're just totally focused on your business. And when you're with your kid, if you can really be 100% focused on them, like this is our time together. And then when you're with your friends or you're getting massage, you're just really in that moment. It helps things not bleed over and kind of, oh, but I should be here or I should be with her. And I think the other element here is women generally don't, it's hard for them to invest in themselves and
yeah.
in ways that aren't monetary, in ways that are connection with friends, community, exercise, just all these things, whereas actually men find it much easier to invest in themselves. And so I think that's a society thing and something that we have to unlearn as adults and then rewire to say, no, I need to invest in myself so that I'm the best possible mom when I am with my daughter.
I feel like also our activities tend to be way shorter away from the house. Like you always see the examples on like TikTok and Instagram of stuff of like guys going golfing and they're gone for
Yeah,
like
for
12
4 or 5 hours.
hours.
Yeah, yeah.
And like a woman goes and gets her nails done and she's gone for 35 minutes.
Yeah.
Like um d- is there still like what is that dynamic like with you and your partner? Like making time for yourselves separately from your family?
Yeah, I read a book called Unicorn Space a few years ago now, and have you read it?
I have, yeah.
It really changed my perspective, and I made my husband read it because I really wanted us both to value each other's time. And so we are the most supportive, like, yes, go with your friends. Yes, go on that weekend. Yes, go to dinner. And it goes both ways. Yesterday my husband watched 6 Kids because it was 2 of my friends' kids. But he didn't bat an eye because he said, "That dinner that you're going to is really important. So let me watch the 6 kids and your friend's kids so she can go to dinner too." And so
Wow.
but it goes both ways. And it's just this trust of like, you need to go do your unicorn space. And my husband equally needs to go do his. So actually in
Yeah.
our masterminds, we talk about like unicorn space quite a lot and like, what is that? What lights you up?
Oh, I love that. So when we say unicorn space, by the way, this is an Eve Rodsky book. If you want to check it out, I'll put a link in the show notes. Yeah, it's a great book.
Yeah, great
Absolutely
book.
love it. You can get it on Amazon and everywhere and stuff. Okay, so I want to talk about what it is that you actually do as a business and mindset coach, because I think people hear the term, business coach or mindset coach. Okay, what is that? What do you actually do? What does a coaching session with your clients look like?
Yeah, I love all of that, a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
I am a firm believer that your business needs to support your life. It's really the reason many females start a business is because they really want that flexibility. They want freedom, they want time, they want more money with potentially less work or, passive income. So I'm a big believer in teaching that. I'm also a huge believer in you can have every strategy in the world if you don't have your mindset right, that strategy is only going to take you so far. And those limiting beliefs are going to keep coming up until you deal with them and rewire them. So to me, you can't talk about business without talking about mindset. The two go hand in hand. And then really even going bigger than that, it's like, it's not just what do you want your business to look like? It's what do you want your life to look like? And then how does your business fit into your life? And so coaching is, I love it because you're really expanding people's idea of what's possible. Those limiting beliefs are coming to the surface. We're really just conquering them head on. And it's incredible the amount of momentum you can gain in a really short amount of time when you're doing that deep work.
100%. I think something that a lot of people struggle with, myself included, is when you have those limiting beliefs, it tends to spiral.
Yes.
So, one thing went wrong. Well, that means this is terrible and I'm awful and I never should have done this. And you sort of spiral into the abyss. So, how do you stop yourself from doing that? Because I can recognize it when it happens in myself and I'm like, whoa, no, we don't do that. It's hard
Yeah.
though.
It's very hard. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. Awareness is definitely the first step, just literally seeing it in the moment. And the more you can train yourself to do that, the more in that moment you can kind of like stop, reset. And then I truly believe the power of a good coach is underrated because they're going to just pull you out of those spirals and give you so many tools in your tool belt until you wake up one day and you say, I'm not the person I used to be. I'm no longer a perfectionist. Perfectionism comes up a lot. And it did for me too when I started my business. And so I got deep with, well, what is perfectionism? At its core, it's fear, right? It's fear that you might not have control, that you might lose control, that something might not go your way. And it's also a great way to get stuck in build mode, right? If I just perfect my website, then I'll be ready to launch. If I perfect this Canva template, then I'm going to be ready to launch. And you get stuck in this build mode and you actually never start selling. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot to it and a lot to rewire. But yeah, it's doing the deep work, really understanding why am I like this? What's triggering me? What's happening in that moment that's making me spiral?
I'm curious, there's been this like discourse on threads from a lot of, mompreneurs who, moms who are entrepreneurs
Yep.
saying they only like to work with business coaches who are also moms. At the very least, they have to be women, but ideally moms, because a man who's not a mom just doesn't get what our lives or expectations are like. How do you feel about that? Because I completely get it. Like, I remember when I was doing IVF, because we had to have my daughter with fertility treatment, I worked with an IVF coach. And when I was choosing my coach, I wanted somebody who had done IVF because
Yeah.
I needed her to understand what that was like, the physical and emotional toll of it all. So, if I'm going to work with a business coach, I want to work with another mom who gets it.
I think I probably feel the same way in many, even if I'm hiring someone that's, for example, I'm looking for somebody to help me with funnels right now. And it's like, I don't need you to be a mom, but if we're going to relate, I'm going to go based on just how I feel with you. And if we're connecting on many different levels, it's going to be a good relationship because that's what everything is relationships. So
Yep.
I don't think it's a deal breaker. And I think it depends what you're looking for. And also, one coach is never going to be everything for you. I've had many different coaches and they all have helped me in different ways. So it's not to say an incredible male coach couldn't help you in your business so much. So I think it's just asking, what am I looking for? What am I needing? And then really
Yeah.
going with that intuition. What
For
feels
sure. There can be a vibe, I think sometimes, I get the ick from coaches who are like, we
yeah,
all have the same 24 hours in a day.
yeah,
Because no, we don't. Not everybody. You have
yeah,
4 kids. You do
yeah,
not have the same 24 hours in a day as I do, for example, having one child who goes to bed at 7:30, 8 o'clock every night, which leaves me with 3 to 4 uninterrupted hours every evening for myself, for time with my husband, for whatever. Someone with no kids, somebody who, doesn't have any debt. Like, everybody has different 24 hours
yeah.
in a day. And I do find that that can be a limiting belief because it makes you feel guilty for not accomplishing as much as somebody else.
Yeah, time is an interesting thing, right? Because I completely agree with you. There are constraints. And how are we using that time? Because there's people like me, I have almost 5 kids now, I'm pregnant, and I don't have that limiting belief of time. I believe
Mm.
I have this time, so how do I make the most of it, and how do I outsource if I need to? How do I get my husband to help a little bit more if I'm in a really busy season? So, time is a funny thing, right? And it's really how we look at that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think part of it is a lot of the time when they say, to make time, it ends up coming out of your sleep. It's just wake up earlier so that you can squeeze a workout in or, stay up later on Sundays so you can meal prep, and if you're tired, you're no use to anybody, right? You need to prioritize your
No.
rest.
No, no, I think sleep and your health and your mental mindset, I mean, all of those are number 1. So, how I help people in the time constraint is let's literally pull up your Google Calendar. I want
Mm,
you to put in your non-negotiables. So that's potentially dinner with your family. Maybe that's dropping your kids off. Everybody has different things that are just that's what makes them happy in terms of family life and or self-care. Maybe it's putting the massage every other week, whatever it is. Put those in your calendar and then work backwards. Say, how much time do I really have for my business in a way that feels good, where I'm not staying up till 2 a.m., working on something? And then how do I maximize that time? What do I need to outsource? What can I handle? I think we get caught up in tasks all the time
mm.
and then we just get stuck there. We get stuck in the what I call maintenance tasks, and we never work on the growth tasks. Well, newsflash, you could work on maintenance tasks all day long, but your business is not going to grow, right? So
Yep.
we need to figure out how to get you out of maintenance tasks and into growth tasks where you're really leading as the CEO, you know, not just an employee of your business. And so we
That's such
yeah, go ahead.
That's such a good point. I saw there's a real estate locally who is now prioritizing a chunk. I think like half of her day on Monday now is like business day, where she just focuses on whether it's outreach or social media or if she has some admin stuff, whatever. It's just her business, no client work. She puts her phone on do not disturb. And I think that's such a great idea. I've tried to do it and I always end up somebody needs a meeting. They're like, "Well, are you available Monday?" And I always cut into my own time. So how do you, prioritize that time and not let anybody cut into it? Because I am a people pleaser and I always say, "Oh yeah, I can cut into that time, no problem."
It's so hard. It's really hard. And I think you got to go high level. So for me recently, I said, I have a small team and I said, you know what? We're going to break the business up into buckets. And then
Mm,
we are going to make sure that no bucket is not getting looked at. So for me, those buckets are CEO, which obviously is more my territory. And then it's marketing, it's sales, it's community experience, and then it's ops. So we have 5 buckets, really 4 for the team. And we look at those every single day. And on Monday, we look at every single bucket and we say, what is the priority this week? So that no, sales are equally important. But what happens is we get stuck in the ops, right? The
mm,
last minute scheduling, the let me squeeze this client in. And a lot of it is also training clients that actually I don't work like that.
mm.
I have time in 2 weeks. And clients, you'd be shocked how well they respond to that, you know? They just need to know what your boundary is, and then they actually, more often than not, respect it really well.
And when they don't, that's a great sign that you guys wouldn't be a fit to work together.
Exactly.
I've noticed that with clients who want to schedule a discovery call and they're like, "What? You don't have any availability until 2 weeks from now?" And I'm like, "Yes, because I have a full client roster and it's
Yeah.
very busy."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Well, you can't squeeze me in tomorrow." And, I'm like, "Well, this probably isn't going to be a great fit because what will our working relationship look like? Are they always
Yes.
going to be trying to ask for more than I'm capable of?"
I love that. Exactly. And if you can get to the point where you truly believe the clients that are aligned with how you do business are going to come to you. And the
Yep.
ones that don't, it's okay. You don't need to be everything to everyone.
100%. I remember early on when I started my business, it's 3.5 years now I've been doing this. And I remember I was just saying yes to everybody, right?
Yeah.
Anyone who wanted to work with me, whatever your budget was, I'll figure it out and make it happen. And what I realized was I was spending so much time on these contracts that really weren't paying me enough. that I had to take on so many of these contracts. And when I stopped doing that, then I realized, oh, I could only work with like 3 or 4 clients at a time,
Yeah.
charge them a little bit more, and then they're getting better quality work. They're getting, high quality, high ticket work because they have more of my attention as opposed to all these clients who only get, minimal attention from me. But it's hard. Like learning how to say no is a skill.
It is a skill. And what you did was perfect. You really just asked the hard questions like, okay, this isn't working. How do I change this? What is working? What does work? It's just continuously changing and asking yourself what could make this feel better? And really listening to your body. If something's not feeling right, your body is going to tell you, if and you'll get to the point where I feel now pretty confident in like things are either a hell yes or a hell no. And there's not a lot of gray area anymore. I really lean into just my gut feeling of it.
If you could give yourself one piece of advice, when you were starting your business, what would that advice be?
Literally just start. Like
Mm,
embrace the mess. Show up totally imperfectly. And it's through that action, that messy action, that you gain so much clarity, so much confidence, and you conquer so many fears. Like, I'm a mindset coach, and yet when I started my business, fear, they were coming up because I just hadn't dealt with them yet. So I had to like move through all of those and get to the other side. But I got so much momentum from that. And I joke with people, I'm like, I get addicted to doing hard things because it's like the more hard things I do, I'm like, oh, I can do that. Oh, I conquered that. Let me find the next hard thing. As opposed to being stuck in the fear of what will happen if I fail or what will happen if nobody buys, so many fears there.
of course. I love that. Emily Collins, mindset and business coach, mom of 4, soon to be 5, and the host of the High Vibe CEO Mama podcast, which we will link in the show notes. Your website is emilycollins.com, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We'll link that as well. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. This has been awesome.
If you like what you heard today, make sure you follow and subscribe to Rebel Mom Boss with Robyn Flynn wherever you get your podcasts. Oh, and make sure to leave a review because that's how other moms will find the podcast too. Until next week.